courtroom froze the moment she pointed at her husband. Not just a glance, not hesitation. A direct finger across the room. "That's the man who threatened him," she said. Her voice carried through the quiet courtroom. Every head turned toward the defense table. Her husband didn't react. He didn't stand. He didn't shout. He just sat with his hands folded, like someone who had already accepted that nobody in the room believed him. The prosecutor walked slowly toward the witness stand. "You're certain?" The wife nodded. "Yes." The jurors watched her carefully, because accusations between strangers happen all the time, but accusations between spouses, those carry a different kind of weight. Before we continue, subscribe to the Unheard Witness, because sometimes the truth only appears when someone presses play. The prosecutor faced the jury. "Mrs. Calder has lived with the defendant for 12 years. He gestured toward the witness stand. "She knows his voice, his habits, his temper." The wife kept her eyes forward, not toward the defense table, not toward her husband. The prosecutor asked another question. "Tell the court what happened that night." She took a breath. "It started with an argument." The room listened carefully. "My husband was angry." The man at the defense table remained still. The prosecutor nodded. "Angry about what?" "Money," she said. "He believed my brother owed him." A few jurors exchanged glances. Family disputes often start small, then turn into something else. The prosecutor continued. "And where were you when the argument happened?" "In the living room." "And your brother?" "He was near the front door." The prosecutor stepped closer. "Did your husband say anything?" The wife nodded. "He threatened him." The courtroom murmured quietly. The prosecutor's voice lowered. "What exactly did he say?" The wife swallowed. "He said, if my brother didn't pay him back, he'd make sure he never walked away again." The room grew heavier, because threats like that sound very different when repeated in a courtroom. The prosecutor waited a moment. "And what happened later that night?" The wife's voice grew softer. "My brother was attacked in the parking lot outside the apartment." Gasps moved through the gallery. The prosecutor spoke carefully. "And who do you believe attacked him?" She pointed again. Yeah, her finger didn't shake. "My husband." All eyes turned back to the defense table, but the man sitting there still didn't react, because sometimes the loudest accusations feel impossible to fight. The prosecutor nodded with satisfaction. No further questions. The judge turned toward the defense. "Counsel?" The defense lawyer stood slowly. No dramatic gestures, just a calm walk toward the witness stand. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Calder." She nodded slightly. "Good afternoon." The lawyer folded his hands. "You testified that your husband threatened your brother." "Yes." "You heard those words clearly?" "Yes." "And you're confident about what he said?" "Yes." The lawyer nodded slowly. "You also told police the same thing?" "Yes." "Immediately after the attack?" "Yes." The lawyer glanced toward the jury. Let's talk about the argument itself." The wife shifted slightly in her seat. "You said it happened in the living room?" "Yes." "And your brother was near the front door?" "Yes." "And your husband?" "He was in the hallway." The lawyer nodded. "So all three of you were inside the apartment?" "Yes." The lawyer took a step closer. "And voices were raised?" "Yes." "Everyone was shouting?" "Yes." The lawyer paused for a moment, then asked quietly, "Was the television on?" The wife blinked. "I think so." "What was playing?" "I don't remember." The lawyer nodded. "That's understandable." He looked down at his notes. Do you remember calling anyone after the argument? The wife hesitated. No, not even your sister. The wife frowned slightly. I might have. The lawyer picked up a document. Phone records show you called your sister at 8:14 p.m. She shifted in the witness chair. Yes, I remember now. The lawyer nodded politely. And during that call, you described the argument. Yes. The lawyer lifted another sheet of paper. This is a transcript of that call. The prosecutor immediately stood. Objection. The judge looked toward the defense. Explain. The lawyer spoke calmly. The call was recorded through the sister's voicemail system. The judge nodded slowly. Overruled. The lawyer turned back toward the witness. You told your sister something interesting during that call. The wife looked uneasy. I was upset. The lawyer read from the transcript. You said, "They're yelling again." The wife nodded. Yes. The lawyer continued reading. Well, then you said, "I'm going to step outside for a minute." The courtroom grew quiet. The wife's eyes moved slightly. I don't remember saying that. The lawyer nodded. That's understandable. He looked directly at her. But the recording remembers. A ripple of curiosity moved through the jurors. The lawyer placed the transcript down. So, during the argument, you stepped outside. The wife shook her head quickly. No. The lawyer lifted the paper again. You told your sister you did. She didn't answer immediately. I might have been exaggerating. The lawyer tilted his head slightly. Exaggerating? The wife nodded. Yes. The lawyer took another slow step. So you stayed inside the apartment? Yes. You heard the threat clearly? Yes. And you never left? Yes. The lawyer nodded thoughtfully. He then turned toward the judge. Your Honor, the defense requests the court hear the recording from that phone call. The courtroom buzzed with quiet curiosity. The judge looked toward the bailiff. Play it. The bailiff walked toward the evidence console, pressed a button. The speakers crackled softly. Then a voice filled the room. The wife's voice, younger, nervous. They're yelling again. Another voice responded faintly through the phone. Her sister. What are you going to do? The recording continued. I'm stepping outside. I don't want to hear this. The courtroom went silent. The wife stared at the floor. The recording kept playing. I'm already in the hallway. Hold on. A door opened in the background, then street noise. Cars passing. Wind. The sister's voice returned. So you're outside now? The wife answered. Yes. I'm in the parking lot. The recording ended. The courtroom didn't move, because the wife had just sworn under oath that she stayed inside the apartment. But her own voice had just said something very different. The defense lawyer looked toward her again. You told the jury you heard the threat from inside. She didn't answer. The lawyer spoke gently. But according to your own call, you were already outside. Her hands tightened around the rail of the witness stand. The lawyer waited, then asked one final question. If you were standing in the parking lot, how could you hear what was said inside the apartment? The courtroom felt completely still. The wife's confident story from earlier that morning suddenly sounded fragile, nor because moments ago she had pointed across the courtroom with certainty. But the recording had just played something she couldn't explain. And sometimes the truth doesn't arrive through arguments. Sometimes it arrives through a voice someone forgot was being recorded.